Now that I've got your attention, let's roll. This is a project I did for a friend. The porch was in hazardous condition, the deck had nails sticking out of it, and the choice of wood was pressure treated 2x, which is weird. The left post was rotten, the stairs were in bad shape, nothing there was built per code, and that's why everything had to be replaced. Yes, I'm surprised, nothing was holding that post in place. Nor the stairs, see how easy they came off. Oh, and yeah, that post came out of the ground without any effort as well. Now I'm working on the right handrail, the left one was not even connected with screws to the house, someone used caulking. The deck was connected with nails to the joists, some use galvanized, triple zinc, gold coated, eventually all of them will rust, and that's why I prefer installing with stainless steel screws. Now it's clear that this is not one piece, this is just hanging in the air. We don't have joist hangers. They're just connected with nails, some of them. Some are not connected. The leg screws are not driven all the way in, maybe they ran out of battery. There are no washers on them. Let me put back the initial picture so I can talk a little bit more about it. At first glance from afar, everything looks fine and probably even safe. But the owner who's working on it knew about it being problematic, and that's how I came into this picture. If you're buying a house, don't count on your inspector. Do your homework, since every house has problems and some of them are not even visible. The posts need to be replaced. I will use long ones from the top to the bottom, unlike the existing which meet, or I should probably call it rest, on the deck. I use temporary support with jacks on the bottom to lift the structure and support it while I replace the problematic ones. After leveling, I double check with the laser. It's really hard to see it, but it's there. I'll just move it. And then I'm checking it with this column. Now I have this one holding this weight. I thought that all the weight goes down to this concrete block, but look at this. It's not. Now that everything is so loose, I can continue cutting it. Rough. Yep, I was very lucky. The porch didn't collapse and I didn't get any concussion. The reason behind this error is not screwing the supports to the ceiling. The assumption that the weight transferring all the way down was incorrect. And the reason behind the porch not collapsing entirely was that the right column landed on the partially existing deck and column. So if you do it on your own, apart from adding supports, screw them together and add additional reinforcements, as I'm about to do now. I put all the waste on my trailer, then dump it in a dedicated disposal site for around $90 per ton. Also, I use anchor screws with washers and fasten the jacks to the board beneath as additional safety step. The demolition is done, and now it's time to find the center for the new concrete holes. I'm using plumb bob for that. I use 2 yellow lines to mark the center. I've marked the first location. The second will be more problematic because someone used concrete here. I tested and it goes around 2-3 inches deep. I will have to dig around it, remove the concrete for my diameter, the 10 inch, and then dig a new hole that goes 36 inches deep and not 2. I'll explain the process of finding the center again from another angle. On the top, I run the 2 yellow lines you've just seen to find the center of the post. Then I drop the plumb bob from the top and find the center at the bottom. Once the rope is loose and on center, I fasten it in place with a stapler. And finally, I mark the location on the bottom with a spray paint. And we can see the center. Digging time. Supposed to be exciting, at least for me. Yeah, well, that thing is called Little Beaver and I will never rent it again. It's heavy, unstable, hard to move, even harder to assemble or disassemble at the end of a hard working day. But if you ignore all that, it doesn't have the juice for this kind of job. It's not that easy. The old post is there, the concrete is around it, and my bit got stuck, the one I'm using to break the concrete. The last piece is out. It's about 2 feet. We need to go 36 inches at this area. Now I'm at the right depth, but the auger bit of the Little Beaver got stuck. Can you believe it? It doesn't have enough juice to pull it out. Also, now that I'm exhausted, everything is harder, and this thing doesn't help. Now to the dingo that comes to the rescue. This thing is awesome, fast and accurate. I load it along with the breaker and auger bit heads and complete everything in a very short amount of time. This was tricky, since I had to be careful not going too close to the support beam but at the same time be able to rescue the auger. The accuracy of this tool helped immensely. So it's not concrete, it's just Little Beaver. Little Beaver. Wow. You think they will accept it?
I don't know. I mean, I don't really know. That looks pretty beat up. So make sure you use a Toro instead of the Little Beaver for your projects, because the Toro actually has a really nice auger bed on it, which digs in really good, and it rescues the Little Beaver whenever you need to rescue a Little Beaver, because apparently little beavers can't dig.
Now that it's 36 inches deep, without any augers, I can put the tube. I'm using an 8 inch and the auger bit was 9 inch. So one will be somewhere here, and I think I'll put another one just next to it. From the ground to the beginning to ground level. So from the bottom to ground level. I'm about here, 36, 37, around this area. Now for the other one. I'm cutting around the edges, so when I'll break the concrete it will break a square and not everything around it. See how close the hole is to the temporary support. Everything needs to be very precise at this stage. If you do it on your own, start drilling the hole and slowly get the machine closer to the hole the deeper you go, to make sure it drills in a straight line. I went into the crawling space and I see that behind this board there's another one like this, not like that. The problem with this design with the joists is that they are spaced, and between the space there's air, there's nothing. So whenever I
I will drive the leg screw, I will hit nothing. But that's a different scenario. Luckily there is access to the crawling space. I can see the board behind this one. I know it's facing like this, and I will just drive my leg screws however I want. Again, making sure that I'm not hitting or in the way of the joists, the future joists. Zip flashing tape before the ledger board. This is not flush with this, so I'll have to cut it.
Hi everybody, this is John. I'm helping Roman with this project.
It's falling very easily off the shovel. So I'm going to add more concrete. This is how I like it. The total amount of holes that I need for this project is 4. I will have separate 2 columns for the porch, for holding the porch, and 2 separate columns for holding the deck. They will be completely separate entities, not related to each other. In the future, if something will go wrong, each can be fixed independently. Now let's talk about the weight. Each hole is around 3 bags, or not around, it's 3 bags of concrete bags. Each bag is 60 pounds, so the total of filling all those 4 holes comes to 720 pounds. Just for you to understand what kind of weight is it, the previous porch, deck, and the concrete blocks that were holding the porch or the deck, I don't know exactly what the builder had in mind, came to around 1,300 pounds. So those 4 holes, only those 4 holes are equivalent to half the weight that was here previously. That's a lot. Since it was raining, I need to weather the wood, let it dry, and it was really bad rain. And meanwhile the concrete will settle or cure for 3 or 4 days. This will dry.
I didn't have time to set up the camera while it was raining badly, but John and I covered the concrete and protected it from the water off camera. You want to wet the concrete daily with a small amount of water while it's curing, not over flood it.
The hose is missing a washer, and that's why it's leaking. This is not part of the project, but it's always nice doing something for others. It's a very easy fix, and hopefully will give someone a reason to smile.
During the 3 to 4 days while the concrete was curing, I returned on a daily basis and watered the concrete once a day with this exact amount of water. Meanwhile, I had time to continue working on the ledger board.
Those come with a washer already, and I will use those instead of leg screws. The length is 3 because I have this one is around 2 inches, and the one in front of it when I went to the crawling space is also 2, a big board like this, exactly like this. So I don't need more than 3. From the top till here, 3 centimeters all over. There are letters here towards me. The nail shouldn't be driven too far. It needs to have room for expansion and contraction. Now, this needs to go under this. here I didn't have enough room for the nails, but the deck that will be here will push it into place. And here you can notice that I did an overlap. So now I have triple protection, 1, 2, and 3.
To mark the location of the post on the concrete, I used the level. While I was temporarily holding it, my wife checked for level and marked the location of the post with a spray paint. The post was pre-cut beforehand to the right height, and although I could have used a special and accurate laser or a plumb bob for this matter, I avoided doing so since wooden posts are not 100% straight. In other words, I matched the position on the concrete to the not so straight post rather than marking a perfect straight line from the top to the bottom and then finding out that the post is a little bit off.
I'm pre-drilling and then driving the hex head, otherwise it will split the wood.
The porch is now supported by the new beams. Now let me explain about the deck design. I've chosen cedar deck boards. Cedar must have joists every 12 inches, while treated pine, for example, can have joists every 16 inches. By that, and knowing that I don't want to use any cantilevers, we end up on this 12-inch spacing column. The width of the deck is 5 feet. The 2x6 row means that if I use 2x6 joist of type southern pine, its max length can be 9 feet and 11 inches, and since I need only 5 feet, this will work out for me, so the joist of choice will be 2x6. The joists are connected to 2 boards and therefore span from the ledger board, which is also 2x6 from the same reason, and another board which was chosen according to this table. Again, the width of the deck is 5 feet. The next number higher than 5 in this table is 6, so I'll focus on that column. For example, if your project has 6 feet and 1 inch, then you need to focus on column 8 and so on. The length of my deck is 12 feet. This gives me the following 3 optimal options. The first row means that if I'll use 2 boards of 2x12, then the concrete holes can span max 12 feet and 2 inches on center apart. The next row means that if I'll use 3 boards of 2x10, then they can span exactly 13 feet apart, which is even greater. And the last row means that if I'll use 3 boards of 2x12, then I can span them even further to a 15 feet and 3 inches on center. Since this is the max span, I only need a span of 12 feet. I can use any of those options, but I decide to go with the 2x2x12 since it's sufficient for my needs. To conclude, know what type of decking board you're going to use along with the dimensions of the deck. Then you will be able to select your joist of choice from the first table. The second table will help in figuring out the optimal amount of concrete holes. Just keep in mind the height of the deck and even possible width obstructions when going with 3 boards, for instance, since sometimes it might prevent your optimal choice and force going with different row in that table. I hope that helped in understanding the choice of wood and how things should be, at least the skeleton. I will again return to what I said about buying a property. Know what you're getting into.
This will be my 2x12 by 2. This will hold all the weight of the joists, and the joist will eventually be connected to the ledger.
I make sure we have the same distance from the house to the 2x2x12 boards, mark its position on the concrete and drill the holes accordingly.
We level everything with a laser, and then we measure the distance from that corner to this corner. It needs to match this corner to that corner, and then Ksenia is marking the location so it will be easy to know where it lines up. I measured the distance from the corner and made sure it's right, marked the location before painting it, And now it's easy to know if I'm aligned or not. And I am. Another thing that I'm checking is the distance from here to the beginning, and the same thing on the other side. And I have a little bit of room in playing where can it go, left or right. See, I have this amount of space. I figured out that here I need to put it flush with this side, while the other one I need to put it flush with the side closer to the house. So just be aware or know that you still have a little bit room of play. I initially thought using leg bolts with washer and nut, but I really like those screws. Also, if I will use this kind of bolt, I will have to drill holes all the way from one side to another, and then I will have this ugly piece sticking out every 16 inches or so. This one, the screw goes almost all the way in, so we don't have any kind of holes in the front, and it can be drilled directly without pre-drilling. In time I'll see how it works, and worst case I'll just replace it with leg bolts. What I'm doing with the joists is clamping the deck, the future deck or piece of it, clamping the piece of the one that I just cut, and always using the one that I just cut, not reusing this one piece everywhere. So this consists of only 2 joists. Then I'll move to the other joist, replace this with the other joist, because every piece is a little bit wider, a little bit higher, everything is different. So let's focus on one. I cut it. On the other side I clamp it with the deck, and on this side I clamp it directly to the hanger, and then it's much easier to drive the screws in. Otherwise you need to hold this and this and this at the same spot, and also somehow with, I don't know, another hand tighten everything so it will be not really tight but tighter than it is. So I like this approach. I marked all the joists with numbers, and now I'll paint the sides. Also, another thing, the flushing can go directly next to the joist, so all the water will go down if you push the joist long enough. This is why when I cut the joist I don't make it exactly like the width between the ledger board and the rim board. I leave a gap. This is why I can move it forward, backward, and also the hangers, I don't do them close enough, so I will have this movement. Hangers can be oriented in any direction. I'll put them in so it will not be visible from the outside. I'll add railing to the stairs from this side, and I calculate the location by running some lines here, and also from the door. So it will be here. I created a notch and I'm going to put it in. While the paint is drying, I'm working or continue working on the stairs, and from this side all I do is just run 2 screws and 1 on the very bottom. That's it. Just 1. We removed this joist, it was in the way, then just use the hammer, tapped it in, and that's it. I'm marking 1 inch on the end. wipe off the excess. With the first one I had help, and then I'm using these pieces, exactly the same length on both sides, and working my way down. I first cut the board to the length that I want. I'm taking the distance from here till the end plus 3 centimeters. Why? Because I wanted to have an overhang of 1.5. And here I have 3.5 and I want 1.5. So I need to remove 2 centimeters. This was hard, but managed. I had to take another board because I removed 2 centimeters everywhere on all 3 posts and found out that I have a bigger gap. So here I had 1.5 centimeters, but at the end almost nothing. So I took another board and figured out that the posts are not on the same distance from the house, and ended up with 3 a little bit different cuts. But everywhere now I have 1.5 centimeters in the middle, in the beginning, and at the end. I'm going 1 inch from the center, pre-drilling. 3.5 stainless steel screws. I can reuse the first board, but this time I will measure carefully each corner. And here between the boards I need a spacer, so usually I'm using a screw. For the rest I'm using the screw in the middle, clamps, and if I have bananas, curves, I'm just pushing it in or out. This is the board that will be closer to the door. I made some cuts to it and I will use the router with this kind of head to make the corner round. I'm doing it now because later it will be impossible. What I'm doing is taking the triangle, checking where the joist is, doing 1 inch from the end, pre-drilling, then 1 inch from the other side, always making sure I'm at the center between the hole and the joist, and then just doing 1, 1, 1. It's a slow process, but as you see the result is beautiful. Everything is centered. I'm marking the location of the post and the other side as well. Lasers are cool. I'm also choosing the most beautiful board. So this will be the top. I'm aligning it so it will be flush with this corner. Someone was very creative and put a piece of insulation here on the bottom and then this piece in an angle. We don't want to go with this angle, so I measured the distance from here, from the end to the column, copied it here, took a level, placed it here, and now it's level. You can see the angle that someone created, but I need to be level, so this is what I will do. This is what I need to cut from every step, each and every one. For the bottom support, I'm going to use these little blocks with this plastic on the bottom, and I connect them likewise with some screws. So I will have a total of 4. This is an example of how it looks like. I have 1. This is leaning on top of it. And then I'll have 2, 3, and 4 with another post here. I added extra support here and on the other side. For the rails with an angle, I made multiple attempts, but eventually it worked out. What I'm doing to measure the distance now is using this block with exactly the same angle, and then I'll have the same distance as I have over here. Just for your information, since this one angled, the width looks like it's bigger than this one. Now let's go to the saw. The angle that I used is this one. And what I'm doing is placing the board like this, cutting it, pushing it to a predefined location since I have all of them at the same length. So I'm putting it here and then cutting the other side. And then I have those boards which I always pre-drill, countersink, and now I'm going to oil them. The railing on top is flexible. To make it stable and per code, I will use those hanger on the sides, this hanger probably in the middle, those washers, and these screws. Then I'll test if it's still flexible or not. Per code it should hold, if I'm not mistaken, 200 pounds. Here I wanted to make sure that they are on the same level, so it will look like one long piece. For that I continue the board at the end because I have space here. Now I will flip the board, or flip, and it will go to the other direction. So if the tongue was going this way, now it will go this way. To hide this little piece there, the hole, I will take a tongue from different board and stick it in so it won't be visible, and then I'll do a trim around everything. This part was really tricky with the angle. It took a long time, but I'm happy with the result. Final touches. Now that this is over, it's time for the trim. And those friends didn't bother me and I didn't bother them. To the trim. I connected it with some screws over there, and I copied the angle here from here with this friend, and I just copied it directly to my table saw.
Time taken, around 4 weeks. Cost for materials around 7 grand. Cost for tools and materials around 22 grand. Thanks for watching.